I'm Vicki.
Hi, I'm Ken.
Hi, I'm Jeff.
I'm Bud, and we are the Pickleball Krewe. And welcome to the weekly installment of the Pickleball Krewe's podcast. The Pickleball Krewe is a group of pickleball fanatics based in southeast Louisiana, but passionate about all things pickleball anywhere. In this podcast, Ken will review area tournaments, and then the group will welcome a special guest, Bill Maloy of Magnolia Classics, LLC, a company dedicated to advancing quality pickleball events and training pickleball officials. Jeff will share with us one of his many burrs under his saddle, and Vicki will close us out with a few of her always interesting shout-outs. And if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure to subscribe and like. Hey, this is Bud, and welcome to our 10th podcast of the Pickleball Krewe. We've got a special guest today, but as usual, we're going to start off with Ken and his tournament wrap-up.
Let's start with August tournament just briefly. Big Easy at the New Orleans Hilton, August 4th through 6th is full. We're looking forward to it. A week later, August 10th through 13th is the New Orleans Pickleball Fest at the New Orleans Downtown Convention Center, or the Drew Brees Tournament as it's being referred to. This is a multi-day tournament. I was just checking the website just earlier today, and the registration is up to 480 people. But here's the interesting thing. Some of the brackets or divisions that were full at 16 teams, they have bumped up to 30 teams. And that was the 3.0 and 3.5 open divisions that have now bumped up those divisions to allow for 30 teams. So they're no longer full. So if you were thinking about getting in it, there's still room to register for all divisions, men's, women's, and mixed. The last weekend in August, the 23rd through 27th, is the Gastric Cancer Foundation Charity Tournament in Foley, Alabama at the Foley Event Center. Go to pickleballbrackets.com for that event. Going to September, of course, September 5th through 10th, that's Paddles at the Plex. That's in Opelika, Alabama. Always a great time. Registration is open, and some of those divisions are filling up. And that tournament will not increase the size of the division. They have fixed size at around 16 teams per division, and some are already full. The Pelican Park Classic, the Fall Classic, it's September 23rd and 24th at Pelican Park in Mandeville. Gender doubles will be on Saturdays, mixed doubles on Sunday. Registration opens in just about another week, August 1st. September 30th through October 1st, the last weekend in September, is for the Love of the Y. It's a sanctioned tournament. It's going to be, it's hosted by Ronnie Walters at the Paula G. Manship Tennis Center in Baton Rouge. And Magnolia Classic LLC will be running that tournament, and we're going to hear more from Magnolia Classic later today in this podcast. Going to October 7th, 8th is the Fall Fling, St. Francisville. This registration just opened about a week ago. Check my Facebook page. You can get an application. You have to print it out. They only accept mail-in applications. It's $80 per person. There's 3 events: mixed doubles, men's, women's doubles, and then there's a skinny singles or singles. I think it's skinny singles that they're having at that tournament. Let's see. The next weekend, October 14th, 15th, the Vicksburg, Mississippi 2023 Fall Brawl. This is a brand new tournament. It's going to be held at the Halls Ferry Park in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Women's, men's doubles on Saturday, mixed doubles on Sunday. $60 per person. Friday night, I think there's going to be a little bit of activity and open play. That $60 does get you into one or both events if you choose, and it's a round-robin format. Kathy Head, Therese, I know they're working hard to put on a great event, and there's 8 new outdoor courts that it'll be held on. These are permanent pickleball courts. And the last weekend in October is the Hollow Wheel in Baton Rouge. It is full. That runs the 27th through the 29th of October. And then we'll do some quick save the dates. November 4th and 5th is both the Louisiana Senior Games at Greenwood Tennis Center in Baton Rouge, as well as the The Canebrake Country Club, they're having an event that same weekend, November 4th, 5th. Let's see what else. November 11th, 12th, the Tom Burkhart Magnolia Classic. That's going to be in Daphne. Registration is open. It's $50 per person. Go to pickleballbrackets.com. And a couple of save the dates in December. December 1st through 3rd, the second annual Boys Ranch Christmas Classic. This year it's going to be held in Slidell at Fritchie Park Gym in Slidell. Friday's a social, Saturday gender doubles, Sunday mixed doubles. We don't have an application yet or details on pricing, but that's one to support. It's for a great cause. Finally, December 9th, 10th is the second annual Americana YMCA Pickleball Invitational in Zachary. This will be Chase Rigdon's tournament, the second year for it. Registration opens August 1st, and it is a USAPA sanctioned event. So that's it, Bud. We're caught up on tournaments, so back to you.
All right. Thanks, Ken.
So we have Bill Maloy as our special guest of Magnolia Classic LLC. Bill, tell us about first your position with Magnolia Classic, and just tell us how you got started and what's the goal of this organization.
Okay. Magnolia Classic LLC is a Mississippi-based corporation founded by Andrea Scafidi Robertson and myself. The idea was that we wanted to honor Ron Feldman, the grandfather of pickleball on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, with Mississippi's first sanctioned tournament. And we started talking about it around 2018, 2019. We got in touch with the family and they were in favor of it. And then the pandemic hit. So I got concerned that if we had a pickleball tournament in the middle of a pandemic, we might be liable to the family of some unfortunate long COVID patient or worse. So that's why we formed the company, to have a little bit of protection against the unexpected. That was 2021 when we held the Ron Feldman. And I guess I should shout out to Ken and Vicki Wynn for taking photos for that first sanctioned tournament. Thanks for being there. But that was the only event that we held in 2021. And Andrea and I had pretty much decided that we needed to have at least a quarterly event to justify the storage unit costs that we had. So in 2022, we had 5 events, and in 2023, we're now on pace for 8 events. So it's continuing to grow. Wow. We host tournaments, we host referee clinics, and I was very pleased to see that Petra had gotten her certification because she was one of our baby level 1 referees that came out of one of our clinics. So congratulations to her. And I'm also supposed to thank Bud, Vicki, and Jeff for the invite for Andrea. She wasn't able to attend, but she wanted me to mention those names. And I don't know why she left out Ken. I guess she was talking to Ken at the time.
We've tried to get rid of him, Bill, but he just won't go away.
So, Bill, what is your position with Magnolia Classic, and what is Andrea's position? And who else is kind of a key component of your organization? Yeah,
as far as the corporate structure is concerned, I'm the majority shareholder. I'm considered the president, although it's sometimes referred to as the boss in some circles. Andrea has lots of hats that she wears at various times. I decided that she could be the managing director as far as this conversation was concerned. But basically, she makes sure that the tournament runs smoothly, and she gets paid as a result of that. And we also try to pay whatever operators we bring in for whatever tournaments that we're doing. So basically, it's just a framework within which we can charge money and pay contracted tournament operators and just be on the up and up. I always got concerned about PayPal's friends and family usage for tournaments. I was thinking that if PayPal realized how many tournaments were using the quote friends and family method of payment, and realized how much of a percentage they were losing out. So when Andrea and I talked about hosting tournaments, we wanted to do things the right way. We wanted to have a business. We wanted to have a limited liability corporation and a checking account, and we charge registration fees as if we were a business, because we are, and just be on the up and up completely. And one thing I need to mention about being an LLC rather than a 401(c), just because you can make money, that doesn't mean that you will make money. A lot of our tournaments have been fundraisers, so we end up giving whatever extra income we have as a donation to the sponsor. So we've been in business this is our second year of operation, and I think we have $1,000 in the checking account. So it's going well so far. So far, there hasn't been a real downside. So we're hoping to continue it for as long as people will have us around.
That's great. That's great.
And
So
very
what
kind of
what
you
is
guys
your
to give
specialty?
some-
Are you kind of a turnkey when it comes to a tournament director comes to you? What do you what services do you really supply?
Basically, we make ourselves available to the pickleball community for whatever they need. If they need us to handle registration and run the tournament, soup to nuts, as I call it on our website, magnoliaclassic.com, we're certainly able to do that. If they just need us to run the tournament and they want to handle the registration themselves, that's fine. We just want to make ourselves useful to the pickleball community. And part of that usefulness is the occasional referee clinic. Andrea and I are both registered referee trainers and level 2 referees. So we can create level 1 referees, just by having a clinic and getting some visual acuity forms on file. And we didn't really realize going in that we could fulfill that role. So we do much more than tournament hosting. Andrea and myself as the primaries, but we depend on Vicki, a tournament operator on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And we're always looking to expand the staff. It's tough because whatever tournaments we're hosting or producing, we can't actually participate. So we try to keep the staff down to a minimal so that the people who want to play in the tournament can.
You and Andrea utilize any particular rating system that you report scores to for people in their ratings?
Well, part of the idea of hosting tournaments, we're both USA Pickleball ambassadors, and the primary role of an ambassador is to drive membership. And there's no better way to drive membership than to require that participants be a member. So sanctioned tournaments was our goal going in, and sanctioned tournaments means whatever software or rating system that the USA Pickleball organization is supporting at the time. Historically, they've had UTPR for their rating system, but with the move to pickleball brackets, we now have an independent rating system, pickleball brackets. There's also pickleball.global as well as Duper, and there doesn't have to be necessarily any correlation between those individual rating systems. I am a strong 3.0 within USA Pickleball, but within pickleball brackets, my rating just now crept up above 3.5. So it's going to be character building for me for a while. But yeah, we try to have sanctioned events so that the results will matter. And that brings in a certain quality player when they know that the tournament is sanctioned. They know what to expect, and they know that the results will matter.
So now, do you guys manage Mississippi Senior Games?
Andrea is involved with the Mississippi Senior Games. She does that as a volunteer effort. She's also employed by the city of Biloxi, so she has access to a lot of the venues that the Mississippi Senior Games Committee will need access to. Personally, I'm always a participant in the Mississippi Senior Games and not really involved in running it unless they need to, for example, borrow a printer or laptops. I'll make myself available in that regard.
So, Bill, y'all are running regular tournaments with this new influx, the MLP style tournaments that are coming up. I'm not playing in it, but I'm going to one that Chase Rigdon's putting on tomorrow. Is that something that y'all thought about that y'all would be able to help run also in the future?
Yeah, this gives me an opportunity to give a shout out to the Honey Badger. She actually made this shirt for me so I could wear it during my various television appearances. Last fall.
She made mine too.
Last fall, she sent Andrea and I a text to ask if we were interested in hosting an MLP style event. And I said I wouldn't rule it out. And she had one, Marlena had one in Hattiesburg. And then just recently, Holly Murray here in Daphne had an MLP event. And we got involved as an afterthought because at first the city of Daphne wasn't willing to rent the courts to an individual. So Holly said, "Oh, no, it's for Magnolia Classic." And so I have a history of giving money to the city of Daphne, so that sort of paved the way for that event. And I can see that continuing to take off. We've registered MLP Gulf Coast, and we're hoping to coordinate with Marlena or Holly or Terry or Lamperez and Slidell, anyone who might be doing that kind of event. We would be available to help spread the word and possibly even run it. I'm envisioning some software where you could basically register and handle the draft all just by pointing and clicking on a website. That would make things a lot easier for the coordinators, which I've been calling commissioners. If we could make it self-contained, it would greatly simplify getting up and going quickly with an MLP event.
As a follow-up, I hope y'all will push MLPs with a draft in it instead of bringing your team. I think this is just me personally. I played in the one that Marlena put on in Laurel, and we did a draft there. You arrive, you don't know who you're going to play with. And I just think in general, it's better, in my opinion, for pickleball, getting to mix and match with some different people. And I think it levels the teams out where the competition is just really evened out and stiff all day long.
Yeah, the first experience I had as a tournament director on the Mississippi Gulf Coast was as the director of a scramble. The scramble format was relatively new 5 years ago, and I put on one called Not Yet Spring Fling, which is sort of a dig to West Feliciana, who were having a spring fling event before it was even spring. So I named mine Not Yet Spring Fling and made it a scramble, and it was very popular. And so we followed up with another scramble when the Pops Ferry Courts finally got a restroom, even though it was a porta potty. We had a porta potty promo and invited the folks from Louisiana to come over and see our, at that time, the new facility. And in addition to the Magnolia Classic events that Andrea and I are doing, I also do some small scrambles. I do a springtime scramble that I call Light Up for Luke because his birthday is on 4/20. So on 4/20 each year, I have a scramble. And then in the fall, I have a Halloween time frame scramble that I've been calling Scrambling. And I agree that those kind of events are great for the pickleball community because it gives you a chance to play with that 4-0 or 4-5 player who ordinarily doesn't, have time to practice or drill with you. As a tournament director, I made sure that prior to the initial serve, the server had to announce the lineups. So in addition to getting the opportunity to play with some much better players, you can also finally learn the names of those people that you see all the time, but you're too embarrassed to ask their name again.
I'm glad you feel that way because I think it's a good thing for pickleball, those type events. That's great.
Yeah, one thing that I haven't seen anyone do yet is an MLP event like you described, where you just show up and you don't know who else is there, what team you're going to be on, or whatever. And as long as all of the ratings are balanced, it really shouldn't matter, how many newbies you have sprinkled in with the seasoned folks.
Right.
So, Bill, I have a question. We use the USAPA pickleball rating system for most tournaments for the longest time, and then Duper was supposed to replace it. And then now, like you mentioned, Pickleball Brackets has their rating system. I find this kind of a little confusing. People ask me, what is your rating? Well, I'm a 3.5, my UTPR or whatever it is a 3.5, but yet I'm a 4.2 in Duper. And where do you see this rating system going? Are we going to have just one universal rating system, which I really thought that's what Duper was supposed to be?
Well, a little bit of history of that. The USA Pickleball Organization outsourced their UTPR to a company that eventually became Pickleball Brackets. And Pickleball Brackets right now isn't doing UTPR. They have their own internal rating system. So it's really a Burr Under My Saddle, so to speak, that the rating system is so much up in the air. And it all comes down to USA Pickleball not committing. And I expect them to commit to Duper. They have a history, like I said, of outsourcing their tournament ratings. So I suspect that this time next year, or maybe 2 years from now, that there will only be Duper.
Interesting.
Do you think it's the better rating system?
I'm not real familiar with the algorithm that they use, but supposedly it's better in the sense that scores age out more logically. Mm-hmm. And also you have only a single rating for your doubles. You don't have a separate mixed rating, for example. And that's sort of hurting me right now with Pickleball Brackets because my mixed rating dipped up above 3.5 based on how Beth McClatcher and I did at ASR recently. But my men's doubles rating is still 3.0. Now, in a world where there's only Duper, that wouldn't be an issue. You would be 3.5, period, whether it was in doubles or mixed doubles.
That's what you keep playing so well, Bill.
Well, it all comes down to who's registered for the tournament and the size of the bracket.
Hear so often about how much more smoothly tournaments run when there is a referee that's available, but we know there's such a shortage of referees. Are you guys putting forth a little effort there to try to encourage more tournaments to use referees and, training more referees to be there?
Yeah, I've had 3 or 4 referee clinics since I've been Magnolia Classic, and I plan on having more. It's not common knowledge that if you are a referee or a referee trainee, you are supposed to be given an opportunity at any USA Pickleball sanctioned tournament to get out there with a clipboard and get some experience. So with each sanctioned referee, or with each sanctioned tournament that Andrea and I host, generally the Friday before is the day for referee training. And that's how we got Petra involved. And anybody who's interested in, becoming a referee for pickleball, be on the lookout for that Friday training clinic, because sanctioned tournaments strongly encourage there to be a training clinic, because like I said, if somebody wants to get experience, we're supposed to let them. You had mentioned that things go more smoothly when there's a referee. There's a category of sanctioned tournament called Medal Match Plus, and that says that referees will be available for any medal matches. And naturally, tournament directors are always wanting to have round robins, because that means that there isn't any medal match per se, so that the guy who's pretending to be the tournament director doesn't have to run off and pretend to be a referee. So we're hoping not to have referees at round robin style tournaments, but there is the occasional, Pool A and Pool B where the winners meet to see who's going to be in the medal round. So Andrea and I still have to occasionally change hats and hop out on the courts and do our referee thing. It would be really nice if more tournament players got into refereeing, because there's, like you say, a real need for trained referees. And in the past, if a referee was ever needed, there was always somebody on hand, that was experienced in tournament pickleball, that they could, step up and volunteer to referee when needed. Folks like Terry or Johnny V, the regular tournament players, there's really nothing that says they can't be level one, without any effort at all. Now, whether they want to become level two and then certified, is really up to them. Frankly, I'm happy to be level two and stay at level two, because being certified means that you have to recertify each year. But if you're level two, you can just stay at level two and not have to worry about recertifying.
Now, if I come to one of your events on Friday before a tournament, you're certifying at level one at that point? I mean, if they meet the criteria,
well,
is that correct? Or is it pre-level one?
Well, it can be. It's really referee trainee. Okay. If we see somebody who's obviously experienced as a referee, then they're obviously at least a level one. So at that point, it becomes a matter of paperwork. And the paperwork that matters is the visual acuity form. That there's a form at the USA Pickleball website where you download it and you have your ophthalmologist confirm that you have at least 20/30 vision. If you can't see, then
that's not a bad idea.
If you can't see the ball in or out, then you can't really even be a level one. So if you're serious about that, I would strongly recommend coming to the referee training clinics with your visual acuity form already filled out. And then you get a little bit of training from an experienced referee. We can only make level ones. We can't make level twos. Okay. But for the folks that are obviously at least a level one, coming to a referee training clinic is an easy way to get that placard or the name tag from USA Pickleball that says you're a level one and you know what you're doing, and you would be able to contribute to the refereeing of a sanctioned tournament.
I've got a question. This is not on the technical side of things, Bill, but I'm just curious. We wanted to do some of this with some of the guests that we had on. How long have you been playing pickleball, and how did you find it?
Yeah, I was not looking forward to answering that question, being separated from my wife. It's been 11 years since I watched my estranged wife and Ron Fellman participate in a regional tournament in Mandeville. They were relatively new to the sport, and my wife said to one of the coordinators, we're fairly new. Should we go to a regional tournament? And they said, oh, sure. I think that was Tom Burkhart that said that. But anyway, they showed up and they struggled to win points. But it looked like so much fun that I finally said, okay, I'll go to pickleball practice. And then, 12 years later, I'm flying to Pittsburgh to participate in the National Senior Games. So it's been 11 years, a good 11 years since she got me involved. She was the Mississippi Gulf Coast ambassador at the time. And I was just a guy from the band. I had no athletic experience per se. I was on the chess team at USM, but, that really didn't prepare me for, racket sports. But I got involved in the Pass Christian pickleball community, started to win medals, got addicted to the whole tournament vibe, and I guess the rest is history.
Bill, you probably don't remember this, but I've been playing about 5 years now. I had been playing 2 months, and you came down with Phil, and y'all played in a tournament in Hammond. And last minute, the guy, Donnie, that was running it, our last 30 minutes, he said, Jeff, I'm going to throw another team in. Come on, let's me and you play. My very first ever tournament game was against you and Phil. Do you remember that?
I remember that event. I don't remember, how we did. Did you win that game?
Well, you guys y'all teased me that day. We played to seed ourselves. You remember that?
I do remember it. I was telling Phil that we didn't have to necessarily do all that well during the seeding.
Y'all let us win. Gave me false hope. And then we played against you when the tournament started, and y'all kind of put me back in my place.
Yeah, I remember that. We were sort of just going through the motions during the seeding, but then when it came down to it, it was single elimination. So that sort of caused us to, focus a little bit more. And yeah, we were accused of sandbagging during the seeding, but frankly, we were sandbagging during the seeding.
At least you're honest.
It's funny how everybody's pickleball journey is different, but we're all, or most of us, are addicted to it. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons that we wanted to honor Ron Feldman, because he brought pickleball to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And so if you're tracking your pickleball lineage, to who got you involved and who got them involved, everything seemed to terminate with Ron Feldman.
Right.
My tree goes, from me to my wife to Ron, and there's quite a few lineages that trace back to folks like Tom Burkhart. And so that was one of the reasons that we wanted to honor these pickleball celebrities, with a tournament. And for that reason, we've got the Tom Burkhart Magnolia Classic scheduled for Veterans Day weekend in November.
They're like legends that laid a lot of groundwork where we can play the sport that we love so much.
Yeah, I ran into Tom at last year's Big Easy, and I said, Tom, we would like to honor you with a tournament in your name. Would you be willing? And he said, could I think about it? And I said, sure. And then he immediately responded with yes. So our plan at the time was to bless the Woolmarket courts on the Mississippi Gulf Coast with its first sanctioned tournament, but the construction, for whatever reason, fell behind, so we lost our opportunity to host it on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So I suggested to Tom that we move it over to Daphne, because Daphne had just finished their expansion of 6 more courts. So we were actually on the same level as the Pops Ferry facility in Biloxi, with 12 dedicated outdoor courts. And he didn't seem to think that it was all that strange that somebody with a Mid-South history should come over to an Atlantic South venue just for the tournament. So hopefully we'll have a lot of the Louisiana folks coming over on November 10th and 11th. Yeah. Or is it 9th and the 10th? That's why I depend on Andrea for details like that. It's Veterans Day weekend is how I remember it.
So, Bill, you've got 8 events this year. I mean, where do you see Magnolia Classic LLC in the next few years?
Well, I think if we continue to have 8 events per year, that Andrea and I could stay busy for the indefinite future. 8 is probably too many, as far as I'm concerned. Each one means loading up the RV with the tournament kit, and sometimes, driving a state or two away, unloading, loading. Sometimes it's just not as much fun, I guess, as it can be. But now that I'm retired, I think I need to think more in terms of making some money off these events. I don't normally care about getting tournament director pay. I'm more concerned about paying the operators, so that we could have a smoothly running tournament. But where I see things going, will probably continue to exist. Maybe bring in a few more operators so that we can do a round robin kind of thing on the tournament tent, so that folks like Vicki or Andrea could participate in the tournaments that we host. I tried playing and directing in the Ball and Bone and Joint tournament that was recently held here in Daphne. And I don't know how Terry does it, and Johnny V and the folks that, run a tournament and play in the tournament each and every time. That I'm not quite there.
Has the software, I know you guys actually just recently, I think somebody said y'all changed to a different software, but has the software at least made that end of it that much easier for you guys to manage?
No, the software is a nightmare. In the old days where there was only pickleball tournaments, we got familiar with pickleball tournaments and its idiosyncrasies, and now it's primarily pickleball brackets, and the user interface is a lot more friendly, but it still has its idiosyncrasies. And one of the things that we've run into is if you have multiple people logged in and running the tournament, you end up stepping on each other's toes as far as, changing things around. So the software is in a very poor state, if you ask me. But the encouraging thing is that they're continuing to work on it, that part of the registration fees that Pickleball Brackets charges now is actually going towards software development. And they make changes around the clock, fixing bugs or improving things. So I expect it to get more and more tournament desk friendly as time goes by. But right now, it's really scary that you can have something that you just can't explain. So it's really nice to have folks like Vicki Collier that have a technical background that won't panic, when something unexpected happens, and hopefully they're able to resolve it in a reasonable time frame so that things just don't come to a screeching halt. But even, with the best of plans, things can come to a screeching halt. We've lost our internet access in the middle of tournaments recently, and it's hard to explain to people that, just need to be a little patient. We'll get our internet back and we can continue. We've also had hardware failures, laptops dying, printers dying, and we've done as much of the redundancy thing as we can on the tournament side, so that hopefully when things like that come up, we're able to power through them as best we can. But as far as the software goes, that's very much out of our hands. So we're hoping that the people who are making changes really know what they're doing and don't mess things up, because they can really mess things up.
With your experience, Bill, and being involved in tournaments and now Magnolia Classic, if there's 2 or 3 tips, what would you say to a tournament director to really make for a successful event, either from an organization standpoint, from a promotional standpoint, just anything from your experience?
Well, with the size of the tournament, it can dictate what kind of operation you have. Historically, the tournaments in Louisiana have been old school, as in you have scorecards filled out ahead of time and you just play your game and then send the result up to the tournament desk. With the larger tournaments, you can't really do that because you never know which court a particular match is going to be held at. And so you have smartphones and text messages and multiple events starting at staggered times throughout the day. Regardless of the format that a particular tournament has to use, the trick to making it run smoothly is getting that completed score sheet back to the tournament desk as quickly as possible. I know that some tournaments have said that the winning team is responsible for making sure that the score is correct and sent back to the tournament desk in a timely manner. But people want to socialize, and the game is finished, and everyone is standing there at the net talking about, pickleball, and that score sheet is sitting over in the basket waiting to be filled out. Now, whether or not they realize that everything is come to a screeching halt until that score sheet is sent to the tournament desk and entered, for that reason, the best scenario is a court monitor, somebody who can keep an eye on one or two, maybe even four courts, so that as soon as a game finishes, it's their responsibility to get that score sheet back to the tournament desk as quickly as possible. We ran into an issue earlier this year with a fundraiser tournament that we had where the winning team not only didn't fill out the score sheet, they didn't even bother returning it to the tent. So we had one game that was supposedly over an hour, and it was because that score sheet was just languishing in a basket. Nobody thought to, return it to the tournament desk. So that's really the secret of a well-run tournament, is get that score sheet filled out correctly and sent to the tournament desk as quickly as possible. Now, whether that means runners or tournament court monitors or maybe even a referee, you can't really have the next round until the previous round is finished, and getting those scores entered is the key to making things run quickly. Yeah. I was thinking that I might even offer a reward for, the fastest turnaround, that as soon as the game is over, you start a stopwatch and, see how quickly that score sheet can be returned to the tournament desk. So you'd see a change of heart that meeting at the net, wouldn't go on as quickly because somebody wants a chance at that paddle. They're grabbing that score sheet and running it over to the tent. And I did want to say, I think this is great. This gives us a way to make sure that the entire pickleball community is aware of, not only the tournament changes that may be happening, but any news that needs to be spread, that people are subscribing to your YouTube channel and looking forward to each new episode. So I think it's a great way to get the information, whatever it is, out to the community at large.
Well, I know you're a subscriber and we appreciate it.
Yeah, Bill, any time in the future, if y'all have something you're wanting to promote or talk about, y'all don't wait for us to invite you back on. You and Andrea get in touch with us, because we're pumping out one a week. So it'd be plenty of opportunities for y'all if something comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was some good information today, Bill. We really appreciate you coming on, spending the time with us.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Want to thank Bill Maloy for being on the podcast today. And now it's time for that Burr Under My Saddle with Jeff.
You're Burr Under My Saddle.
Oh, y'all been waiting for this all week, haven't you? This week, the Burr Under My Saddle is the stray or high drop shot. And some people are going to think when I announce that the problem was the high drop shot. But that's not necessarily what I'm going to talk about. We all have hit a high drop shot. And within a match, there are several high drop shots that go high. What I want to talk about, the Burr in my saddle, is the offside player that gets the ball crushed at their feet, and then they turn and look at the player that hit the high drop shot. If I'm that player, I'm going to turn and look back at them and think, why are you in the transition zone? Sure, I hit a high drop shot, and that's a problem. But if you stay in the transition zone, you're taking the problem that I created, and like I always say, you're making it even worse. So a couple of things there. The offside player, as soon as they see the ball go high, or if I hit it high and I say, watch it, they should try to get back a little bit because it's a high ball, so you have some time. So they should try to get back if they can. Yeah, I want to try to help my partner. I don't want somebody I play, and I've seen this in high level play, y'all, where the pressure is on you you better hit a perfect drop shot or the ball gets crushed back at them and then they're looking at you sideways. And I just think that's a backwards way of thinking. And I've seen some high level players that I think ought to revisit their court positioning and watch some pro pickleball because they do it seamlessly. If the ball goes high, they're getting back, trying to get that next ball and get it into the kitchen. But like I always say, if I hit a high drop shot, Vicki, and you want to look at me cross-eyed and stand in this zone, I'll be okay.
All right, Jeff. Thanks for that. Burr Under My Saddle.
All right.
Now we're going to wrap it up with a shout out from Vicki.
All righty. Got two quick ones. And, even though I gave her a shout out before, I want to go ahead and give another shout out to Taylor Garcia. After watching her in the PPA Denver Open, she just fought like a tiger. She did great. We're all so proud of you, Taylor. And know what a distraction that was on the whole paddle issue and controversy. And you just held it in. You just did great. Got back out there and had such a great fight. We know you're going to do it next time. And my other quick shout out will be to Andrea Robertson, who's not feeling well and couldn't be with us today, of Magnolia Classic. We missed you, and hopefully we'll be able to get you on very soon. But Bill represented you guys well. So just wanted to say, hope you're feeling better.
Absolutely. Okay, if nobody has anything else, that's going to do it for this week's podcast, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye, all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're interested in contacting Bill or Andrea at Magnolia Classic LLC, here's their email address, magnoliaclassicpb@gmail.com. Well, that's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave any comments and please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again and see you next week.